It has been a long time, so I apologize, but welcome, and I hope you enjoy this upcoming video today on how to make your own embellishments. I am doing very generic embellishments in this video just because they're going to be stuff that I want to use for any project. So I'm sticking to a lot of hearts and stars, so I just wanted to prepare you for that, but feel free to just use this as inspiration and use whatever it is that you use the most, whether it may be florals, birds, words, polka dots, anything that you use a lot in your own particular crafting projects. You want to use those items. But again, just letting you know, in this video I'm sticking to neutrals, which are stars and hearts mostly. So I hope you are inspired, and I hope this helps you to use your stash and to make something new out of maybe something old. Alright, I hope you enjoy. Stay tuned.
So the first embellishment we're going to make are arrows, and these are the great way to use up your little scraps. So I just had these arrow stamps of this solid arrow, and I just stamped it on some cardstock and some designer paper scraps with Versamark ink, and then I embossed it with my clear embossing powder. So that gave it this shine, and then I just simply cut them out. So here's just a few that I made, but any solid image, whether it be an arrow or not, can be used this way, and it's so simple to make. So the next thing for an embellishment is these banners. So you may have a few of these in your stash. So these I just stamped and cut out, one out of cardstock and one out of designer paper, just for an example. And then this craft one I embossed with white, which turned out pretty. And then here's a couple other banner stamps that I had, and I just stamped on different color cardstock and embossed with different colors. So I had white and I had a navy embossing powder that I used there. So the next ones are a couple label stamps that I had. So just dig into your stash of stamps and see what you have, and just try them out. And even these tiniest scraps can be used. So here I just did some white embossing on different colored cardstock and designer paper. There I did a pretty scripty font stamp that I had. So here's another one that I know I can use in my Project Life baby album. This one, I just embossed it in the navy embossing powder that I had. Turned out cute. Punched it out with a circle punch. Again, some more white embossing. And just, again, to get it in that little label, I used a punch that I had, and I used a small scrap. That's why it's partial there. So any little scraps you have here, more examples, some smaller stamped images, stars and hearts, white embossing powder and some pink embossing powder, and then a small circle punch that I had. And I have a couple more using the blue embossing powder. So just use, again, whatever you have, and these are just a few examples of how you can mix and match just some basic supplies and get some different looks. And then I wanted to also show you just plain stamping with different color ink pads. So no embossing here, I just used different color inks, and I had this banner stamp set, and so I just stamped a few here to show you as an example. So just by mixing a variety of colors and patterns, you can see how cute they kind of look together. And it's nice to have these on hand just to add as a little bit of decor on your Project Life or whatever project you're working on. So here, when I put them all together, you have your own little custom little ephemera pack started here, and it looks so cute together, and these are so easy to make, and they'll be easy to use as well. So now we're going to get into making some tags. So I had this tag punch from Stampin' Up, and this is the shape of the tag, but I wanted to show you a little tip. So I measured the width, which was 1 3/8 inches, and so I cut a strip of my scrap cardstock to be slightly smaller than 1 3/8 inches, and I'm just going to slide it through my punch upside down. So now this allows me to vary the length of my tag. So I'm just going to punch it out, and you'll see that now I have a different length or size of a tag. Super easy. And so this is another great way to use up your scraps, use your punches in a different way, and get more for your money. So here are just those fun branding strips we have all over the place, right? Use it to line your tags. So here I'm just adding it on one of these tags, trimming it to size, and there you go. Custom tag 1. The next one, I'm just using another small paper scrap and adding it to the top here. Another tag done. This one I just did the same thing, but I punched it out of designer paper that looked like wood grain. And I wanted to use my white ink pad, but it didn't really show up well. So because it's a pigment ink, it stayed wet, so I was able to heat emboss it with some white embossing, which gave it that vibrant look of white that I wanted. So here again, I'm using that same branding strip, and I'm going to punch a hole, a 1/8 hole and then a 1/4 inch hole over that to make the little reinforcement over the hole of this tag. This was a pre-made tag that I had in my stash, but it was a color and plain that I really didn't use, so I wanted to customize it here. So now I'm just using some cut out pieces of flowers from some designer paper. You can see it had that print on it that I would never use. And now it's a pretty tag that I think I will use on a project. Now before you blink, this one's done. I just punched in the corner and ta-da! Custom tag. As easy as that. Here's another tag that I've had forever that I would never use, that pattern there of the farm and things like that. So here I'm just going to embellish with some more scraps, and this is a die cut from Stampin' Up! Of the word happy. So if you have any of these in your stash, use those dies and cut out these pretty scripty words and glue it onto your tag. And then I'm just trimming off the excess, and there you go. What a pretty tag that is. Now this was another one in my stash. Never used because it's bright, bright red, and I don't use red hardly ever, and it's huge. So I'm going to cover it up with some graphic paper here. And even though this paper is also pretty like in your face, it's easier for me to customize later, and I can add some things on it when I'm actually going to use it on a project. So here's a fun technique that's the trend right now, is the gold dipped looking tags. So just use some washi or Post-it to mask off your area. Add some Versamark ink to that little corner, and then use some gold embossing powder, or you can use silver or whatever color you'd like, but gold right now is the trend. So it would only stick to the part where I got the embossing powder, the Versamark on, excuse me, and then I heat embossed it, and there you go. So here are a few other customized embellishments I made with simply stamping with black ink. So I just used a variety of stamps and punches to make these. Very simple. So you don't need to emboss, you don't need any fancy dies, you don't need anything else, just some scraps, some stamps, black ink, and some punches basically. So you can see I had a lot of craft cardstock in my stash that I'm trying to use, so that's why most of mine are just on this craft color, but use whatever you have. And these I can also add color to later when I actually use them on a project. So right now they're pretty generic, as I mentioned, but this way they will be used and they're still customizable. I can add any sentiment, words, color, anything to these because they're pretty generic in that way. So I like to have these in my stash. So again, a variety of punches, a variety of images, dig through your stamps and see what you have and just stamp away. And then real quickly here, these are just some tags cut out of some designer paper. No embellishments needed. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you were inspired to make your own embellishments. And you can see when they're all together, we have a pretty nice pack of ephemera here, it looks like. But it's custom, and it's still customizable even further, and they'll help you use your stash, and they'll be used on future projects. Thank you so much for watching, and please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.